Good morning. So happy Deepavali in advance. Uh, Last class we have seen how to save the content into a file, means within the mobile device and to the external device like SD card. Today we are continuing with that. So saving to external storage, nowadays it is becoming mandatory since we are using our devices for multi-purposes. At that time space is very limited, so even though we use the cloud service also, we need to take up the backup of our existing device data. For that reason we are maintaining the backup copy with the SD card, storage device card, right? Later point of time we can uh, recover our data if anything wrong goes with the current device, right? For that we have discussed this we have discussed all this in this last class. Now we're continuing with the next topic, using static resources. Using static resources. Say, besides creating and using files dynamically during runtime, it is also possible to add files to your package during design time so that you can use it during runtime. Say, for example, timetable of your class. It is a static content. It won't change dynamically, right? In that case, you require to add that timetable file in a resource folder. So when the student logins into our application, he or she can download that content, static content, for his or her reference, for further reference. Similarly, for example, examination timetable or some content which will not change never. Such kind of files you can keep as a static resource and push onto a package folders during design time itself. Then when the application is up and running, you can click on the particular link to download that file. For example, you may want to bundle some helping files with your package so that you can display some help messages when users need them. So help file is another example for static resource. In this case, you can add the files to your packages resource slash raw folder. res/raw folder. So in that raw folder, all the help related files is going to be keep as a static resources. So if you are able to visible this screen, right? So here the project explorer, package explorer, in that resource folder, in that raw file you are given as a text file.txt. The content of text file.txt is the quick some information which is relevant to the application. How you can keep this, we will see through the example code. Again, it uses the input output streaming of the text files. We'll see an example. This is the one static file you are going to keep and store under the raw. As usual, since it is a file, it uses the concept of the file. So in Java, we are required to use the java.io.buffer reader, input stream reader, input stream, and this public class file activity extends the activity. Since it is an Android code, we need to embed that. Edit text box is used to push the data onto a file. Whatever you typed in the edited text space, that is going to be recorded in the raw text file. How you are fetching that content information from the text box? Text box equal to you are binding this text view with text edit text with the text box. Then you created the object for the input stream is equal to this dot get resources dot open raw resource uh, r dot raw dot text file. So the text file you are binding and under the directory which is present raw. Under that raw there is a resource dot raw file dot text file. That text file that is going to be fetched as an input stream reader. Whatever the content you are typing, that is going to be bind to the input stream reader. Then with the help of input stream reader, you are creating a buffer of that message that buffer of that message and keeping it under the BR. This input stream reader ISR or IS and buffer reader are the intermediary channel. Whatever the content you are typing under the text box, that is going to be buffered before pushing onto the text file. Once the buffering is happening, then with the help of the string object, you are going to read the values which you are enter in that edit text. So first it is checking if it is not null. If any empty space, if you are not typing anything, means it won't um, uh, write the content onto a file. If something is there, for example, hi, happy Deepavali to all. If you type this message to the edit text box, that message is going to be read character by character, or the entire statement is going to be read through the read line. Buffer dot readline entire statement is going to be read and initialized as to the string. And also you are validating that you are checking whether it is a string is null or not. If it is not null, then that is going to be displayed as a toast message of the string what you have entered. And you require to explicitly close the stream channels to avoid the misuse of the data which exists with the cache memory. So you require to close the object for the input stream and as well as the buffer reader, right? This is the one example how you can get the accessibility of the static resources with the help of the following code. This is very important and interesting. Remember, if required, you can take a screenshot of it for future reference. Okay, I hope you understood, right? Is it? Fine. Now creating and using databases. Creating and using databases. Android uses the SQLite database system as a built-in. Most Android application uses the built-in database, that is the SQLite. The database that you create for an application is only accessible to itself. Other applications will not be able to access it. See, that's a means there is exclusive lock which will happens with the other applications resided in the same phone. For example, very simple example is uh, uh, gallery. gallery. Once gallery, if you are maintaining a gallery, if another application wants to access, means it will expect the permission from your end. If you allow the permission, if you allow the permission, then only it will allow. Otherwise, usually it denies your request most of the time. So you can restrict the application. The external application cannot be used the current application database. You can restrict that one. For Android, SQL database that you create programmatically in an application is always stored in this folder. So in this folder, data, then package name and databases. In this folder, that SQLite databases which will be present. Creating database adapter helper class. Creating the DB adapter, database adapter helper class. See, most of the time, probably you heard about the electrical adapters. What is the meaning of adapter? Adapter help us to compatible for multiple devices, right? So in the same way, the your laptop adapter also there. So what is the use? That will be connected to the multiple inputs and single output, right? So if you are dealing with multiple databases, then it is the best practice to create an adapter for adapter helper class for the databases. A good practice for dealing with databases is to create a helper class to encapsulate all the complexities of accessing the data so that it is transparent to the calling code. So for example, if you create a helper class called a DB adapter, what and all the functionality it includes that it creates the database if not exist. If it exists, it just writes the data into the database, and also it will do the open the channel, database access channel. It closes the database action channel, and also it is able to establish a connection with the SQLite database. So these are the following functionalities that can be performed by the helper class if you create the DB adapter helper class. For example, database name is MyDB. The table is contacts. So ID, name, and email. Underscore ID, it is nothing but it is a number. Underscore represents here number. Name is the text information. Email is the text information. So suppose if we have a database name is MyDB, a table is table name of the table is contacts with 3 fields: ID, that is name, and the email. Underscore ID also represents it's a primary key. So notice that Android uses the cursor class as a return values for queries. See, in Java, in advanced Java programming, we have discussed result set. We were discussed. What is the definition of result set? Result set is a set of intermediary query result which is obtaining from the executing the query onto the database table. For example, select contact name from contact where phone number equal to so and so. Based on the phone number, it is retrieving the information if it is present in the table. Otherwise, no records found is default message. If it is present in the table, it retrieves the name of a particular person who has having the contact number. So that name and contact number it will display in the form of table. So this is an querying result. It is not table itself, but it's a virtual. So that is going to be stored in the result set. So in Java programming, result sets are the object. It is able to hold the querying the tables to obtain the relevant information from the table. In the same way, Android uses cursor concept. Cursor is similar to your result set. Cursor also holds the data in the resultant data which is queried onto a database. Cursor class as a return value for queries. Whatever the query, not only the selections, insert, delete, update, modify, whatever the queries you are applying onto a database table, all the queries resultant results will be stored in the cursor class object. Okay. Think of the cursor as a pointer to the result set from a database query. Using cursor enables Android to more efficiently manage rows and columns as needed. Suppose in the absence of cursor, what happens if you want to fetch the 10th record from the table? What you require? You require to count the number of count. You require the count, apply the counting. Then when it reaches the count 10, number 10, then that is going to be retrieved from the table. Instead of that, if you use the cursor, if you can specify the absolute position of a record by using the cursor, you can fetch that row or record or the object information directly without need not to worry about counting. So all this will taken care by the cursor. So navigation also it become very easy. You can move the cursor up to the first position, or you can move the cursor at the last position. Wherever it is required, you can move the cursor at the mid of the position. So if you want to fetch the record last but one, you can just specify last but one the positional value. So that's the advantage of cursor, using the cursor for the easy navigation from the result set. Okay, you can use the content values object to store name value pairs. So the put method enables you to insert keys with values of different data types. So put method is used here to put the value into key name pairs, key value pairs, or name value pairs. So we'll see an example of usage of data DB adapter class with the put method and key value pairs or name value pairs. So data adapter, DB adapter is used to create the helper class and to access the my database MyDB and context the table name. The DB adapter tag is used. See here, this is the one simple snippet code program information about to make use of the data adapter class. So as usual, import some of the package relevant to the database, accessibility, content values, context, cursor, SQL exception, SQLite database, SQLite open helper. These are the following packages and classes needed to work with the DB adapter class. So you are defining the DB adapter class, public class DB adapter. You are defining the some of the static keywords, one key row ID, the key name, key email, These are the keys to fetch the information present in the contact database. Then a tag you specifying to append to the message, that is DB adapter message. Database name, MyDB, database table, contacts, database version number 1. So first time you are creating the database with the table name is contacts. So version no, if any updation later you can change to database version to the another version. So the query, usually database create query is that create table contacts, the ID, it's an integer, primary key and auto increment. Means whenever you insert the new value, automatically it increment to the second. Right? The cursor move to the second position. When you insert the first one, second it will insert. Third one, fourth one, etc. and so on. So auto increment you can specify with primary key. The variable type is integer. The ID is a number type. Then name, text. See, observe here, double quotes is used here. Since it is what you are, see, this is one string. Since it is continued in the next line, concatenation operator is used here, plus name, text, not null. So null values are not allowed for the name. Email not null, null values are not allowed for the email. So you are creating the table with the following field. Then all these things you are defined it as a string. Later you are directly referencing them to create the database and to insert data onto the database. See, final context, everything is final you defined. Why? Because others won't allow to access, and you cannot modify later if it is inserted once. Then database helper class is defined, DB helper declared, DB helper, and SQLite database. The name of SQLite database you created, the object is DB. Now public DB adapter, it is a constructor. Since your class is DB adapter, in the constructor you are required to initiate all the resources that is required to create the database and get ready to accept the user input. You require to do that. So in the constructor define the context, that is the context, this dot context equal to current context where that application is opened. So using DB helper, database helper, new database helper with the current context is going to be created. So initial context is current context of that application. Now you are using database helper to extend the SQLite open helper. So SQLite, until unless without consent of SQLite open helper, this database helper won't do anything for you. So that's why you inherit some of the properties of SQLite open helper in the class database helper. Then database helper constructor, in that constructor you called super. Current context is this current context of the application. What is the database name? Database name is MyDB. The null return is null. Database version is 1. Then public void on create SQLite database DB you are passing as a parameter to the on create method. So once it will call DB. What is DB? DB is the SQLite DB instance dot execute SQL. Execute SQL. What is the database create? Database create is the query which is create table contacts with the 3 fields. You are passing as a parameter to the execute SQL query. Everything is smooth and working fine. It is going to create the database, the name as contents. The database name is contacts. Then if any exception while creating the table, that will be handled here in the SQL exception catch block. Otherwise, if no exception, it will create the database successfully. Then after creating the database, if any upgradation of the database, if it is needed, suppose if you want to add one more field, that is alternate contact number. So in that case, you can add the one more field and you modify the database version from 1 to 2. You need to change that version from older version to newer version. To do that one, on upgrade method, you can define that. So what is the database name? SQLite database. The int older version is 1. Now newer version is 2. You can change the upgrading database from 1 to new. So that will be maintained as a log, right? Tag. What is the tag? What is the tag content? Tag content is database adapter, DB adapter. DB adapter upgrading database from version, older version number is 1 to newer version is 2, which will destroy all old data. So in the whenever you do the upgradation, it will destroy the previous data present in the SD card or the database. So DB, this is the log message it will display for the user. So it is just a message. When it will drops all the content, when you apply the drop query, so db.execute SQL drop table if exists contacts. If you are migrating from one version to the another version, usually table will be migrated, but data won't be migrated. If you migrate with data, there is a possibility of data leakage or misuse of the contacts of a person. So, right, if internal uses, that's fine. If it is external uses, that will become a vulnerable. So you need to drop all the content which exists with the contacts table. Then on create DB. So one more time on create is going to be called. So DB is passed here with the newer version. It is going to create the newer table of the contacts. Okay. So this is how you can upgrade from older version to the newer version. Next. Next snippet is opens the database. So to open the database, DB adapter open method is used. The return type is adapter type. So open, there is a possibility of exception. So if it is not able to open, then exception will be thrown. So DB database SQLite database DB equal to DB helper dot get writable database. So get writable database return this. So once that database is open with the database helper, it is ready to write the content onto the database table. So current pointer, it is pointing to that. Closest database is public void close db helper dot close. It won't closes the database connection itself. It closes the current object of the db helper. So since since other user accessing the same, that connection is won't be closed. Means you can create the multiple instances of the connection to the database, parallel accessibility from the multiple users with the help of the db helper class. Then insert a contact into the database insertion operation, that is insert contact, return type is long, string name and string email. So there we mentioned ID, name and string. Here we are passing only these two because ID is a auto incremental. You need not to worry about the inserting the value of that ID. Whenever you insert the new record, the ID is automatically incremented and these new values are going to be recorded into a database. First, before inserting, you need to keep track of the cursor, that where exactly, suppose already if the some already 5 records is present in the database. Now if you are applying the new insert, that insertion will go and replace the first current row position, first row positional value if you apply the new insert. Whereas suppose you don't want to replace the existing content, you want to append means you need to get first read the initial values present in the contacts. So to read that contacts, content values method is object is used. Initial values equal to new content values. It is fetching existing all the records present in the table and push onto the initial values. Then initial values that put key name you are passing here, email you are passing with this put means you are buffering in the key name as name key name. What is the key name here? Key name is name, key email is email. So to avoid the conflict of this key and the name, this is used. Key name, key email. Then return, you are returning that database dot insert database table initial values. These values are going to be initialized to the database table by invoking db dot insert. Then suppose if you want to delete a particular contact, then you can use this method. So these are all the built-in methods of db helper class. You need not to explicitly define. Only the thing is you need to add the logic what you want to do with the helper classes. Deletes a particular contact. So public boolean, boolean, why it is used? Boolean return is if deletion is success, yes, it returns true, otherwise false. Either the value it will return. So delete contact long row id. Row id is id number which you specified underscore id. So return, this is returning either true or false value. db dot delete database row id equal to row id, so greater than 0. So if it is greater than 0 once, if the deleted record is 1, 1 is greater than 0, it returns true. Means that it is deleted the so and so record with having the key row id. Retrieves all the contacts. So using cursor class, you are retrieving the all the contacts present in the current table. Cursor return type is cursor, since cursor start pointing to the very first record when you fetch the all the contacts. Return db.query. See, observe here. Here in db.insert for insertion, db.delete for deletion, db.query for fetch, that is select database. To fetching the contents, db.query is used. Remember, db.query is used for fetching the content, getting the information from the database table. Database table is contacts here, new string, the new string which comprises of key row id, key name, key email, right? Then all these remaining is null. Retrieves a particular these are the different parameters, depending on the log type, whether you are allowing to edit or modify, all those things is defining as a remaining parameters. We will discuss it little later about the uh, uh, this these parameters. Then once getting all contacts, retrieve a particular contact. To retrieve that particular contact, see cursor is used. The role of cursor is used for navigation. It's long row ID. You are providing the ID, for example, here for an ID as a phone number. If you provide the phone number as ID or row ID, particular ID, 10th position. So 10th position contact is going to be retrieved with the help of cursor. It will return cursor returns to that position and it is going to be fetch. So for that to retrieve, as I told, retrieve db.query is used through database table. The name of the table is contacts. The new string it returns is key row id, key name and email id. So key row id, is going to be retrieved. Once this is all the values is going to be retrieved, now with the help of the cursor is pointing to the null means no record found. If it is pointing to not null means some record is found. When some record is found, you need to move the cursor to the first position. So to read the content from one first contact to the last one. So whenever you open the contacts list, always it begins from the capital letter A. Right? In the same way, the cursor is pointing to the very first position with the help of move to first method. And return cursor is pointing to the position where that row ID is specified. Suppose if the updates a contact, you can update the contact. If it is successful updation, again return type is boolean, true or false. Updates is success. Updation happens with the 3 fetching the row id. Then you cannot modify the row id, but you can modify either the name or the email. Again you can restrict based on the parameter which you are passing. Contact values, you need to retrieve the existing contact values, and with the help of that args.put method, key name new value, key in email new email value, and db.update is used to update the content and to the key row id which you passed here with the message new content, right? This is the snippet code of helper class. So almost this helper class help you. This is a general term, it is defined here. You can plug this with the any of the database table which you are going to create. Here just by changing these values, you need not to touch the remaining code. So because it is a helper class, it helps you for you are creating the database, deleting the database, dropping the content, updating the version, inserting the content, then displaying the content. All these are predefined. Just you switch this to your uh, database which you are going to create for your application. Okay, I hope you understood about the DB helper class. It's interesting also. Clear? Using the database programmatically, what we have seen is how we can use the database helper class to create the table, insert the data onto the table, delete the data from the table, creating the new version of the database table, etc. and so on. Now we are going to discuss the creating of the database programmatically. The CRUD operations we are going to discuss. See, we have seen the same project, but we are creating through the programming code. That is also programming code, but there we use database helper class. Here we are not using that database helper class. Okay. See, observe the only difference I am going to show here. You are calling the activity that is going to be created. On create, as usual, it will be invoked. So database adapter db equal to new adapter this. Adding a contact, database open required to open db insert contact, db dot insert contact. Directly you are initiating. the initiating, you are passing the name and value, and id you are passing db dot insert contact. Second value you are passing db dot close, means through records you are going to be insert onto the database. So retrieving all the contacts from the table. So again, as usual, it is required retrying. It's a snippet code. Database adapter is used here. Open, close, adding contact is already done. Now you are retrieving the contact, all the context from that. So cursor C equal to database dot get all contacts method is going to be invoked. It is going to call that method which we defined in the previous this one, and with the help of the cursor move to the first record it is pointing to, and a display contact is called by passing the cursor to as a parameter to that. Then it is keep on searching the information present in all the content in the table, and move to next. It keep on moving from first record to the last record and display the content, all the content if you scroll down or scroll up. And finally database closing is required. Then display contact with a particular contact cursor particular position you can display this id name and email is going to be displayed as a toast message. And retrieving a single contact by providing the id value, by providing the id second contact if you want to fetch, pass the second to the get contact method db c equal to db dot get contact. C dot move to first cursor is moving to that, then based on the position it is going to display the contact, else no contact found. If no contact present in the second row, no contact found, otherwise that one. Updating a contact, so adding contact, get all, get contact, close, update contact. So update contact, again database open is required. If database dot update contact, first contact if you want to update, first you pass as a parameter to the update contact with the new values, then it is going to be updated, then updated content is displaying as update successful, otherwise update failed. So deleting a contact, db dot delete contact, which contact you want to delete, exclusively pass the record number as a parameter, row id as a parameter to the delete contact, db dot delete. See, observe here, we are not defined anywhere here about the get contact, about the update contact, about the delete contact, all we are not defined here. We are taking that previous discussion class as a parameter, and that how you can use directly to your database easily through the programmatical code, right? These two files are required to full-fledged to work with our databases easily. So upgrading the database, sometimes after creating and using the database, you may need to add additional tables, change the schema of the database, or add columns to your tables. If you do small modification also, it becomes a second version of the existing database. In this case, you need to migrate your existing database from the old database to a newer one. Okay, so as of today, my requirement is only email ID, contact number. Suppose in future I want to add a few more like alternate number one, official email id, etc and so on, so that become a second version of the existing database, right? To upgrade the database, change the database version constant to a value higher than one previous one, which we have seen. Like this. like this. You can upgrade the version here. Previous version what we specified is 1, now specifying 2. Clear? Pre-creating the database. With this, I'm going to stop the discussion, today's discussion. So we'll go through this pre-creating the database. See, always in a real-time application, database must be ready to accept the user inputs. That's it. Most of the time, database must be ready when you open the application. Database should be ready. Then it is ready to accept the user inputs. For example, your Gmail sign up. Gmail sign up, whether it is going to create the database for you? No. Already the database is present, pre-created. You are going to register adding your record onto a Gmail sign up. Is it or not? In the same way, in real time, it is necessary to define and pre-create the database. To pre-create a SQL database, you can use many of the free tools available. So many of the free tools are available. That one such tool is SQLite database browser. SQLite database browser can be helpful to pre-create the database for your application. Just you can search for this in this URL http sourceforge.net projects SQLite browser. There you can create the pre-fetching database. So once it is created, bundling a database with the database created at design time, the next thing you should do is bundle it together with your application so that you can use it in your application. So database is created, you need to add that onto a databases folder of the this one. Under that assets, you will add in the MyDB. Snippet code for that is, it's a simple code to add the pre-created database onto a file and creating a path of it. See here, path you specified through this. Remaining is same. Path you are specifying through this. The file, the database file which you are going to create it is file, new file, destination path. Destination path is usually database file which will be present under data. Under the data, get package name, you are retrieving the package, then database. Under this databases, your file is present. Then if not exist, it is going to create the directories and creating the new file. If it exists, you copy that base context to the base context to retrieve from the get assets, then open MyDB. So it is opening the database. So with the new file input output stream is destination path MyDB. So whatever the content you are going to interact with that database is which will be present in this destination path. Okay. Clear? Fine. So we'll discuss this in the next class. If any doubts, let me know. You all of you enter your USN register number in the chat window. I wish you a happy Deepavali in advance. Be happy. Take care of your health also. Thank you.
Same to you, sir.
Ah,
Happy Diwali, sir.
thank you, ma. Thank you.
Same to you, sir.
Thank you. Uh, what about this?